would like to start. I would like to start by a brief. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the ICA-AP Committee on Cooperative Research on behalf of the ICA-AP Committee on Women for organizing and conceptualizing this important Coop Colloquium series, and also for their continued commitment in fostering the dialogues on emerging issues and challenges in the cooperative sector. So as we know that today's colloquium is centered around our recently released gender study, which is the review of gender policies in cooperatives in Asia and Pacific. So we had this series released this year on 9th of March in close observance with the International Women's Day. And this release has been quite significant for us, not only for marking it as a cumulative research exercise that we did last year, but also as a form of a renowned commitment in advancing gender equality within the cooperative movement in our Asia and Pacific region. For this study, we studied around 10 countries where we studied their gender responsive policies. And from each country, we had one country level researcher. And I'm also proud to highlight that all our researchers involved in the study were women scholars and women practitioners who brought together their expertise in gender, cooperative development, and social policy to the study. We're fortunate to have our researchers here with us. We have our researchers from Fiji, India, Malaysia, Nepal, and Vietnam today join with us. And the study is actually a result of the cumulative efforts that they had put in together in analyzing the legal frameworks, the policies, and the guidelines that impact gender equality in cooperatives. However, once the study was released, I feel that it's very important that we get into such kind of conversations so that what we started doesn't stop. And I think platforms like Coop Colloquium, they help us to take those insights forward by reflecting on them, by discussing what it means in different contexts, and also connecting them to more close realities and practices that are followed on ground. And I think it becomes a space of not just presenting your findings, but also exchanging experiences and ideas in amongst the researchers and practitioners. Um, so with this, I would once again welcome you all, and I look forward to a very interesting and engaging session ahead. Thank you, and thank you, Naveen.
Thank you, Nitya. Thank you, Nitya, for introduction on today's session. Further, would like to request Ms. Simran Singh, who is the former colleague working at International Cooperative Alliance as lead on gender and cooperative education, and she she was engaged with the Women's Committee for a quite long time, as well as ICA. Would like to take her insights as she was the key person in during the whole engagement of conducting this study. Over to you, Simran.
Thank you so much, Naveen, and hello to everyone. It is my pleasure to be here today again for the COP Colloquium Part 2. And I would like to begin by expressing my sincere thanks to the Research Committee for inviting me again. This colloquium is focused on the study on the review of gender policies in cooperatives, which was conducted by the ICAP Women's Committee, as we all know. And I am here to share an overview of why we launched this study, what was the thinking behind launching this study, and also a short recap of our discussions held a couple of weeks ago. As shared by Naveen, I have worked with the ICAP Women's Committee for almost 6 years, and it was one of the most defining experiences of my time while I was at ICAP Regional Office. And as the former secretary of the committee, my role extended beyond developing and coordinating meetings and activities for women. It involved observing what our members were doing to advance women's empowerment in their respective countries. Now, given that most women members held senior leadership positions at the national level, my perspective was largely shaped by a country level lens. In many ways, my role was to quietly witness how women leaders across the region, Asia Pacific region, are shaping the cooperative movement and driving forward the women's empowerment agenda within their respective country context. Now, the work of ICAP, as reflected through its regional thematic committees, whether women, research, youth, etc., is situated at the intersection of policy analysis and policy influencing. Within this space, we review and study existing policies as well as practices through research, member interaction, and platforms such as seminars and forums. The observations and insights gathered through these processes contribute to shaping future policy directions, both internally at ICAP and in terms of what we advocate further among our members, particularly in advancing reforms. Now, a key part of this approach is promoting cross regional exchanges, sharing of best practices that enable shared learning and strengthen our collective impact as a cooperative movement. Now, to be more specific, one of the key learnings from my engagement with the members of Women's Committee was that there is no shortage of initiatives in the name of women's empowerment and gender equality. Across countries, a wide range of activities are being undertaken, often aligned with global movements such as the International Women's Day or the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. These include mental health webinars, recognition and awards for women, and various thematic trainings. And when we did policy discussions with our members, we encountered examples such as reservation for women on cooperative boards, like in Nepal, or the mandatory gender and development framework in the Philippines. Now, while it was evident that a great deal was being done, a more fundamental question continued to guide our thinking within ICAP and within ICAP Women's Committee. And that was, are these efforts anchored in a coherent pan national policy framework? Specifically, we were interested in understanding whether the national cooperative apexes or government departments that represent co-ops have any comprehensive gender inclusion policy that applies uniformly across the sector in that country. And if so, whether these policies are supported by clear mechanisms for accountability and reporting back. So, in doing so, we consciously moved beyond our usual approach of recognizing standalone initiatives on women's empowerment or gender equality. And instead, we aim to look deeper at the larger vision that connects these individual efforts, what they are collectively working towards, and the long term outcomes that they're intended to achieve. So, we wanted to know like whether each cooperative is doing one initiative, second initiative, third initiative in silos, or is it driven by a larger policy agenda, larger policy long term vision? So that's the premise as to why we started this study. Now, the specific objectives of the study, I'm sure you all have a copy of the report, so you can go through the specific objectives of the study. And I was also told to give a short recap of part one of the colloquium, which was held a few weeks ago. So, in part one, we had a gathering of representatives from cooperative institutions, academia, and research organizations from across the region. And there was a rich and engaging discussion around this study with a particular focus on gender participation in cooperatives, institutional structures, and the emerging challenges for women within the cooperative movement. Now, the first session was very well received by the participants who appreciated the depth, relevance, and comprehensive nature of the research that was presented. Also, the discussion demonstrated that there is strong interest in not only understanding the findings that have accrued from this research, but also in critically examining how cooperative research is designed interpreted, and applied in practice. And this is because we are a research committee pool right now, and we had many scholars here who were present. And one of the major areas of discussion centered around research methodology itself. And I believe the participants raised thoughtful questions on the sampling approach used in this study, particularly around the use of convenience sampling and how far the findings could be considered representative across varied cooperative contexts. Um, I'll delve further into this in the Q&A session. And these methodological reflections were particularly useful because they underscored a larger takeaway from the session, that is, cooperative research becomes increasingly important in informing policy and practice, methodological rigor, and contextual sensitivity becomes equally essential. A second key takeaway from the discussion focused on women's inclusion and leadership within cooperatives. The participants shared that while women are often central contributors to cooperative enterprises, their participation is not always matched by equal visibility in decision making structures or leadership positions, and this we all are very well aware of. And several practical suggestions also emerged from that conversation. And some of these suggestions included that there is a need to strengthen institutional support systems and cooperative networks for women, expand access to their training and leadership development opportunities, create stronger recognition of women's economic and social contributions, and leverage the growing educational advancement of younger women entering the cooperative space. There was also discussion on the importance of family friendly workplace arrangements and organizational cultures that enable women to participate more fully and sustainably. Another important point that emerged from those discussions was the role of enabling legal and policy frameworks. One of the examples cited was the Magna Carta of Women in the Philippines, that is not simply a policy guideline, but is a national legal instrument that helps institutionalize gender equality, or rather equity. This reinforced the broader understanding that while capacity building and awareness is important, systematic change often requires legal backing, policy commitment, and accountability mechanisms, and that is exactly what this study aimed to map across these 10 countries. Now, although time limitations meant only that a limited number of live questions could be taken, participant engagement remained very active throughout. We received a large number of comments and questions through the chat, several requests for additional resources, presentation materials, and valuable observations reflecting experiences from different national contexts. What stood out most clearly from part one of the colloquium was that this colloquium is not only serving as a platform for presenting research and cooperatives, but also as a shared learning space, one where methodological concerns, practical experiences, and policy perspectives are being brought together through cross country dialogue. And in many ways, the first session helped establish three broad messages for us. First, that cooperative research must continue to evolve in methodological strength and contextual nuance. Second, that women's inclusion in cooperatives require systematic interventions across trainings, institutional culture, policy, and public recognition. And last, that the sustained dialogue, such as this, is critical if we are to collectively move from research findings towards actionable strategies. So, this was a brief recap, and we all look forward to the second set of presentations that are here before us. Thank you so much, Naveen, once again, and to Professor Sidzal for having me here.
Thank you, Simran. So thank you for you might have reminded everyone what we discussed that day, so everyone's memory fresh now from that day's discussion. And so without doing any further delay, we will now move quickly to the country presentations. So for the country presentations, we will follow the same schedule that was shared in the program schedule and on the event web page. So we'll first start with Fiji, then India, then Malaysia, then Nepal, and at the end we'll be covering Vietnam. I have some very small request to all the country presenters to the experts that as there are 5 presentations to be made, so would request everyone to try to stick to their timeline of 10 minutes so that we don't dilute any of the country's presentation and cover up the whole thing within the timeline of the colloquium. We already have this session as of 90 minutes. So moving towards for the first presentation, I'll be sharing the presentation at my end. If any of the presenters want to share from their end, please let me know ahead. So for the Fiji, I'll be doing that. And for Fiji, we have Miss Mahima Parthi from Fiji, who is the by profession, she is a law graduate and currently engaged with the Department of Cooperative Business Fiji. And she is currently also pursuing a post-graduation course on governance and public policy from University of Fiji. And she was very instrumental in completing this study from Fiji. So would like to request Mahima to start start with her presentation. And now I'll be sharing the presentation from Fiji from my end. Thank you. Over to you, Mahima.
Thank you, Naveen. If you could just share my slides.
Yeah. I hope my
Um,
people and everyone can see the slides.
yeah.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mahima, and I'm from the Department of Cooperative Business in Fiji. So, I will be presenting on review of gender-based policies in cooperatives in Fiji. So, this topic is very important because cooperatives play a major role in Fiji's development and gender equality, and it is very essential for ensuring fair participation and sustainable growth. So, from my presentation, I will try to cover the cooperative sector in Fiji, the role of gender, existing policy frameworks, key gaps and challenges, and some of the recommendations for improvement. So, Fiji already has a gender policy which aims to eliminate gender-based discrimination and ensure equal participation of men and women in all areas of development. Okay. Cooperatives in Fiji are key pillar to our socio-economic development, especially in the rural and maritime areas, and even small enterprises. In many parts of Fiji, access to formal financial institution is very limited. Because of this, cooperatives provide employment opportunities, income generation, support for all small businesses, community-based entrepreneurship, and also to promote collective ownership where members share profits and responsibilities. However, some of the several challenges such as weak governance, structures and poor record keeping, high failure rates, these issues really affect the sustainability and effectiveness of cooperatives in Fiji. Can I move to role of gender? Slide. Thank you. So women actually play a very important role in cooperatives in Fiji. They are very actively involved in agriculture. And for our department, we have recently been getting registration for agricultural cooperatives in the country. And then market cooperatives and small and micro enterprises also. However, there is strong, despite having a strong participation, leadership positions are still dominated by men. And women have limited decision-making powers. This is largely due to social and cultural norms that influence gender roles in society. And also, gender issues are mostly addressed at the national level and not specifically within cooperative legislation. Can I move to slide 4? So, looking at some of the statistics that we have currently, women's participation in cooperative has increased from 12 to 20%, which really shows a progress. Around 398 women and youth have been appointed in cooperative boards in the last 3 years. However, our country's population, according to our population, 50.37% is female and 49.63 is male. This shows that women are actually the majority in the country, but this is really not reflected in leadership roles in cooperatives. One of the key reasons for this is because for rural communities, the land ownership belongs to the men. So women cannot really hold this type of leadership positions. So this really highlights a gap between participation and representation of women. Slide 5, policy and framework. Fiji's main gender framework is the National Gender Policy, and this policy promotes gender equality and social justice. It aligns with the international conventions, focuses on empowerment of both men and women. The vision of the policy is to eliminate gender-based discrimination and ensure equal participation and development. It also introduces the concept of gender mainstreaming, which means integrating gender perspective into all policies and programs. Another concept is gender responsive approaches, which means designing policies that consider the different needs of men and women. Next slide, please. Despite having this national policy, there is no specific gender policy for cooperatives. The Cooperative Act 1996 does not include any gender equality provisions, does not require representation of women, does not enforce inclusion mechanisms. This means gender equality is encouraged but not legally required within cooperatives. Next slide. The cooperative sector aligns with national gender policies. This is through gender mainstreaming and gender responsive planning. Government initiatives that are currently happening is gender responsive budgeting, training programs for women, and also capacity building initiatives. So for cooperatives, we do provide training, but these training are mainly for women-based cooperatives, not actually the actual cooperatives. Women-based cooperatives, mostly I mean the handicraft, the traditional system cooperatives which are run by women. That's the only women that come to us for training. And for other sectors, there is no representation. So this gender responsive budgeting ensures that government spending supports gender equality and addresses the needs of women and men differently. Next slide, please. The policy encourages women's participation in leadership, equal pay for equal work, gender sensitive work environments. However, there are major limitations such as no quotas for women representation, no enforcement mechanism, and no clear accountability. So this makes implementation weak and inconsistent. Next slide. The key finding is that Fiji has a strong policy vision but weak implementation. Gender equality in cooperative is encouraged but is not enforced. And women-led cooperatives face challenges such as limited access to capital and land ownership barriers, which I mentioned earlier. Most of the land are owned by men in the country, especially in rural areas. So that is the reason why women's representation in rural areas are very low, and they do not hold any board positions. And also weak institutional support, just like Simran has mentioned. Um, Next slide, please. There has been positive progress in recent years. More women are joining cooperatives, taking leadership roles. The government and development partners support this through grants, training programs, and awareness initiatives. For under our department, we do have one of a grant. It is called CDF grant, where we assist cooperatives and we fund them. We give them one third contribution if they have a good business idea. So we have been getting a lot of applications for women cooperatives also. And our department falls as an advisory body to these cooperatives, and we do advise them on how to prepare their grant and supporting documentation and as much as we can for these cooperatives. And most of these cooperatives, the members are not very educated, so that is where my department actually comes in. Next slide. There are still major gaps, policy gaps, no sector specific genders policy, and outdated legal framework. Our Cooperative Act 1996 is very outdated and it needs to be reviewed, and it is in the process of review. We had already prepared a cabinet paper which had to be tabled, but then we had conversations with our Solicitor General, and they have stated that we need a policy first before we can amend the act. So we are working on that policy now. And the structural gaps are the lack of enforcement tools and, as mentioned earlier, limited institutional support. And these gaps prevent full gender equality in cooperative sector. And next slide, please. Apart from policy issues, social barriers also exist. Patriarchal norms. I actually found out this while I was doing the interviews. And then male dominance in leadership and perception that women are less capable leaders. There is also resistance to gender reforms, which slows down the progress. These cultural factors must be addressed alongside policy reforms. Next slide, please. For recommendations to improve gender inclusion in cooperatives, I think the following steps should be taken into account, and that is to develop a national gender policy specifically for cooperatives, because the national gender policy is a general policy, it does not talk anything about the cooperatives. And for us, for the department, it would be to amend the Cooperative Act 1996 to include gender quotas, gender designated reporting, and anti-discrimination provisions. So these measures will actually make gender equality enforceable rather than optional. Next slide, please. I'll just go over my conclusion. So, in conclusion, cooperatives are essential for Fiji's development, and women play a major role but are underrepresented in leadership. Policies exist but lack enforcement. Both legal reform and cultural change are needed. And improving gender equality will strengthen cooperatives and contribute to sustainable development in Fiji. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Mahima. If anyone is having query around the presentation, you may share your queries in the chat box. We will take it up during the Q&A session. Now, moving for our next presentation, and that is from India. From India, we have Dr. Srija Sinha with us, who was instrumental in completing the study for India. Uh, Dr. Srija Sinha is currently engaged with ICA-AP, assisting two of our committees, Agriculture and Cooperative Institutions, Cooperative Education Institutions Committee. So would like to invite Dr. Srija Sinha to join us for India's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naveen. Naveen, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you so much. Please share my presentation. Good afternoon, everyone. As Naveen told, I'm Shrija, and I'm presently working as lead for agriculture, environment, and education at ICA-AP. And it is a genuine pleasure for me to be the part of this Coop Colloquium 70. And I thank the ICA-AP's Women's Committee as well as the Research Committee, first for trusting me with the research work and then giving me this opportunity to briefly present my work. Without further ado, let me just begin the presentation. Next slide, please. Well, India is one of the largest and most diverse cooperative economies in the world. It is a house of approximately 8.6 lakh cooperatives registered across the country, and it operates in 30 different diverse sectors. And of these, you will be surprised to know that most of them, 8.54 lakh cooperatives, are primary cooperatives functioning at the grassroots level, and around 1,800 of them are multi-state cooperatives, and rest remaining are the networks of federations at all levels of cooperative hierarchy in India, and the cooperative banks that provide financial as well as the institutional support to different levels of the hierarchy. So altogether, these cooperatives cater to the need of approximately 32 crore members, that is roughly around 22 to 23% of India's population. And now the question is, in this vast ecosystem, where do women stand? According to the National Cooperative Database, India has approximately 26,000 women cooperatives catering to the needs of 54 lakh members. That sounds impressive, but let us put it in this perspective. Out of 8.6 lakh cooperatives, only 3% are classified as women cooperative, catering to approximately only 1.6% of the members. So, whether these statistics translate into meaningful women participation, leadership, and economic benefit for them, and whether there is any gender inclusive sensitive policy or legislation that supports the women's participation present, and whether it is being implemented is in India's different cooperative arena, was the central question driving this research. Next slide, Naveen. Talking about the legal as well as the policy framework which are present in India, India doesn't have any standalone gender cooperative policy. But what we do have is the constitutional backing, key policies governing them, and the legislation which is present in the constitution. And it is very well implemented across the country. Talking about the constitutional backing, the foundation of cooperative governance in India is constitutional. According to the 97th Amendment in the Constitution, which was done in 2011, um, it gives a cooperative a formal constitutional recognition through three key pillars. First, it reinforces the fundamental right under Article 19(1)(c) for citizens to form cooperative society. Means any citizen, any individual of India has the right to make their own cooperative society. Second, it introduces new directive principles under Article 43B, mandating the states. State is nothing but the provinces which is present in India. We have approximately 28 to 30 states in India, and it mandates the states to promote voluntary, autonomous, and democratic control and professional management of the cooperatives. And third, which is most important for this study, is the Part 9B, which was added to the Constitution, and it has articles from 243ZH to 243ZT, and it is critical for gender dimension because Article 243ZJ under Part 9B mandates the board of every cooperative, whether primary, mostly primary only, consisting of any individual members. So, of course, the primary cooperative that they shall be having around 21 directors, and out of the 21 directors, there should be 2 seats reserved for the women. Though this is the start of gender inclusion in the board level, but it is limited to only board level thing, and there is no provision for equal pay or workforce representation or training mandates or welfare measure within the constitutional text itself. Talking about the policies, previously we were governed by National Cooperative Policy 2002. What I would say that it was a soft approach. It only encouraged the participation of women in management and did not mandate it. It just said that it said that women should be promoted in principle, but there was no mandatory seat or percentage or no mandate which was laid down. And the approach was more voluntary and advisory, not that perspective. But what happened in 2025? A new policy was replaced the previous one, the National Cooperative Policy 2025. It is basically right now it's just a guideline, and it also doesn't have any mandate, but it has quite a guidelines where what could be done for women inclusion is mentioned, like creating a gender desegregated database at National Cooperative Database itself. Then promoting skill training for the women cooperatives, especially in digital and financial literacy. These all things are mentioned, but it is all mentioned just like a voluntary thing and not a mandate. But as the actionable points are being made by the government right now, and they are creating an actionable agenda for the implementation of the policy, I'm quite hopeful that in future we will be having the exact mandates for this. So, moving ahead, when we talk about the key legislation, we have Multi-State Cooperative Society Amendment Act in 2023, which is more concrete, and we had two basic gender-specific provisions. First was Section 41, which includes statutory guarantee of 2 women on the board of directors, and Section 53, which mandates creation of committee on prevention of sexual harassment at the workplace. These are meaningful steps, but the act remains silent on equal pay, workforce gender balance, maternity support, training budget, and broader economic measures for women to rise up to the level of leadership positions in the cooperative. So, when I want to crux all of these three things, I would just say that women inclusion in all these legislation are present, but are limited to governance quota, that is the board level. And there is a strong presence of training and capacity building, but all these things are promotional and not prescriptive. And there is lack of measurable targets and monitoring system. Next slide, please. Okay. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah, this one. So when I talk about the best practices or the initiative, I would just say that policies is one thing, but the implementation at the ground level is another thing. And for this, I want to for highlighting the best practices, I wanted to have two perspectives: one the national level and one at the very ground level, very basic level. So I have taken two cases. One is the good strategy, good practices actually, which are implemented by the National Cooperative Union of India, and that is the apex body in the cooperative of Indian arena. And one, a very humble cooperative federation, which is in the Jharkhand state, and how they are implementing it very beautifully, and how it could be a very good replicable model across India, and not only India, in the world that I will be talking about. So I'll start with NCY, that is National Cooperative Union of India. National Cooperative Union of India has national cooperative field education project, and there are approximately 43 national cooperative field projects, but out of 43, 4 are specifically for women. One is Shivmoga in Karnataka, one is in Aksa, Odisha, and in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, and Imphal in Manipur. And what is this actually? These are the grassroots initiative that builds cooperative literacy and leadership. They grant basically training to the rural women who wants to be the part of cooperative. So this is one of the very good initiative which can be taken, which can be replicated anywhere. And then they have NCUI Heart. It's a marketplace initiative, digital marketing thing. A permanent. There is also a physical platform at NCUI headquarters in Delhi where women-led cooperatives And SCGs also from rural India can sell their product at fair prices without any cost, and it gives visibility and market access to cooperatives, and their products can be visible. Then NCI has a very beautiful body called COVE, Committee on Women's Entrepreneur. In this, all the women who are trained or have any skill, like if they have any skill in making bioenzymes or candle or soap or any other handicrafting, they form a group, very diverse group, not only from one area, from diverse group, and they move places to places and they train. Suppose a person is good at cooking, they train other women for cooking and making their catering cooperative. And if somebody is good at bioenzymes, they give training for the bioenzymes. So in this way, they are creating a group of women who are trained and highly trained in the livelihood activities. So this is one of the very good example. Second is the skill, and then they have a skill development center which is functional in Noida. They are also providing similar kind of training to the women, and then they have a training wing called National Center for Cooperative Education, and they offer quite a diploma program, leadership development courses, and refresher training to the women cooperatives. So these are the few examples, and what I find commendable about NCO's approach is that it goes beyond the token representation, and it is more implemented everywhere. And when I was interviewing Dr. Mahajan, the CEO of NCO, he shared me with example of Coop Kitchen. Actually, I was a part of NCI for a few years, so I was able to practically see it. There are 12 women. They were uh, normal women only, and they cook immensely good food. And they have come up with an initiative called Coop Kitchen, and they are earning 25,000 monthly, all of them. It's a very good example, and it is how NCI is working to uplift women and include women in the cooperatives. Moving ahead, Naveen, please next slide. Moving ahead, I wanted to quote a very humble cooperative federation at Jharkhand. It is called the Jharkhand Women Self-Supporting Poultry Cooperative Federation. It was established in 2005 under the Jharkhand Self-Supporting Cooperative Society Act. And at present, we have nine primary societies, and which is catering to the needs of approximately 5,000 women members and all small poultry farmers. And you will won't believe it is really it has a brand name called Swam. All the poultry products, whether meat or egg, are sold under this brand. And what cracking features do this cooperative have is that there is a membership of course 100% are women. All the board of directors are women. And one thing which is very good is that every cooperative has a supervisor, and these supervisors train the other women, and these supervisors are promoted to the leadership position after their tenure is over. So this is one of the very striking features. And they have a capacity building and training program. Before each production batch, the members are trained for everything, right from preparation to feeding, vaccination, hygiene, selling, promoting, everything. They are trained for everything. And one more striking feature is that when we talk about the dividend sharing, it is not blankly that whatever percentage there it is given to everyone. No, they have a efficiency index model which measures the livability of the chicks which they produce, the body weight, the feed conversion ratio, and the rearing period. And combining all of it, they take out the profit distributed to the active members only. So if you have a good product, you get more. If you have a not a that good product, you get less paid for the product you are selling to the cooperative federation. And then they have a welfare and social protection measures. The members themselves provide to the fund, and then they fund then they support the education, any health emergencies or any insurance which is there. They are all supporting it by themselves. So and they have cracked one more thing. They have linked this with the government of Jharkhand, and they are now providing eggs to the Johar and the midday meal scheme in the state. So this is another good example and good initiative which is being taken, and it can be implemented highly everywhere. So this was for this section. Next slide, please. Next slide, Naveen. Can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. In this slide, I will talk about previous slide, Naveen, challenges, gaps, and recommendation. Yes, the fifth last one, the last one. Yes. So talking about the challenges, I wanted to close this with an honest assessment of where India stands. And talking about the challenges, when we talk about, and I have put it into three sections, the policy gap. So as I already told that the scope of policy provision in the legislation is limited to the board level representation, only two seats in the board. And that is the beginning and end of all the legal gender mandates. And there is no other provision, just I told that there is no provision for equal pay, a specific budget for the training. It's not there. There is no workforce gender parity also in these law, and there is no inclusion of gender budgeting. So this is the gap in the policy which can be dealt later. And then we talk about the cultural barrier. It is similar to what Fiji told. There is a patriarchal norm which restricts the women from pursuing education, from contesting cooperative elections and occupying leadership roles. So similar to Fiji, we are also having this, and women are having low awareness about rights and policies, which is there for protecting them from any kind of nuances, but they don't know about it. And when we talk about the structure barrier, there is a land ownership requirement for PACS membership, and women don't have lands on their name. The properties are not on their name, so they remain largely excluded from the membership of PACS. And there is no gender scorecard and no gender budgeting mechanism and no institutional childcare support across the corporate system in India. And there is very limited access to finance. Women don't have access to finances, digital literacy, or training. So this all further compounds to women's disadvantages. So when I was reviewing and interviewing other various cooperative leaders in the country, we came up with few recommendations, and I will again group them into three things. One was the policy level. So of course, India needs a dedicated national gender policy for cooperative, and it could include the gender mandate quota that goes beyond board. And then we can include, we are in process of including gender desegregated data collection at all levels of the cooperative. And there should be responsive and implementable gender responsive budgeting across the cooperative at whichever hierarchy it could be there. And there should be a proper monitoring system whether this gender responsive budget is being implemented or not. And when talking about the institutional level, um, there should be a gender focal point in the Ministry of Cooperation or at the Apex Cooperative like NCI, which coordinates the strategy, training, and monitoring of all these policies at all levels of the cooperative. And there should be strengthening of POSH implementation in the cooperatives, and a cooperative ombudsman, which is there in the which is there for the upliftment of multi-state cooperatives, could be added to this so that the grievances related to any kind of issues regarding this can be tackled fast. And then moving to the programmatic level, there should be expansion of steadfast training programs for the women, and there should be a budget allocated for that, and there should again be a monitoring system for that, as I already told. And there should be more programs on financial and digital literacy for women, and there should be gender inclusive cooperative certification for to link every cooperative, whether these kind of provisions are there in the cooperatives. So this should be there for all the cooperatives, and there should be some points for that, so that every cooperative gets encouraged to be the part of that certification. So these are few recommendations from my study, and thank you so much for bearing in with me, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Srija. So,
Thank you, Naveen.
so as we are running a little late, so we'll quickly move towards the presentation from Malaysia. From Malaysia, we have our researcher, Miss Juliana, who is currently engaged at Cooperative Institute of Malaysia as a senior training officer. So would like to request Miss Juliana. I think, yeah, so Miss Juliana wants to say from her end. So over to you, Miss Juliana.
Hi
Thank you.
everyone. Let me share my screen first, yeah. Mm, Can you see my slide? Can you all see my slide?
You can see your slides.
All right.
Yes.
Then, okay. Good day, everyone. Thank you to ICA-AP for giving us the opportunity to involve in the research. It's a gender-based policies in cooperatives. So I am Juliana binti Mat Yusof, the Senior Training Officer at Cooperative Institute of Malaysia, or well known as ICMA. So today I would like to present, this is my scope of presentation. Okay, I'll tell you the scenario of cooperative movement in Malaysia. Then along that, we look at the policy and legal framework that govern related to gender in the cooperative movement, Malaysia cooperative movement. And then the research key findings, the challenges and the gaps, and as well as the recommendation of how to close or to minimize the challenges and gaps. Okay, before I begin, we look at the to understand the Malaysia's cooperative sector. Look at the robust network of we have a robust network of 16,150 registered cooperatives, a total membership of 7.4 million, and it's considered as massive socio-economic movement. Then the workforce in cooperative movement, there is a direct employment of over 72,000 staff, and it contributes about ringgit Malaysia 64.5 billion to Malaysia GDP. So this statistic as of December 2025. So from this statistic, we can say that it's a well-structured movement governed by the Malaysia Cooperative Societies Commission, or we call them known as SKM. It is a regulator with Angkasa as the apex body and ICMA as the educational institution. So I call it as a triple engine. All right. So the strength of our movement lies in what we call triple engine of support. This engine is powered by Malaysia Cooperative Society, SKM, Angkasa and ICMA. The core of our research focus on specifically on women's involvement in mainstream cooperative. While Malaysia has a successful women-only cooperatives, the real barometer for gender equality lies in our mainstream mixed gender organization. In these cooperatives, women represent a significant portion of the membership and the workforce, but they are often underrepresented at the top decision-making levels. Our goal with this study was to identify the policy gaps and cultural barriers that prevent women from moving into board position in this diverse mixed gender environment. So in previous slide, we look at the legal and policy architecture that guides our movement. Malaysia operates on what we call soft compliance model. Our foundation is the Federal Constitution, supported by National Policy on Women, which targets 30% representation in leadership. For cooperatives specifically, the Cooperative Societies Act ensures that every member, regardless of gender, has an equal voice, while we don't have a rigid legal quota. Our strategy is one of active alignment with national goals like Dasar Koperasi Negara, or we call it DACOM 2030, which aims to transform cooperative into professionalized third engine of the economy. The key highlight of our framework is how the triple engine works in synergy. By aligning the regulator's standards, the apex body advocacy and ICMA's professional training, we ensure that gender inclusion is treated as a mark of high quality governance. By having SKM as the regulator overseen, we ensure that gender inclusion is viewed as a mark of a well-governed and professional cooperative. This makes our approach not just about social justice, but about meeting the high standards of governance required in mainstream cooperatives today. Then we move to the key findings of the research. Our findings highlight a very specific dynamic in Malaysia. We have moved from simple representation to active gender mainstreaming. The first major insight is that while our numbers are strong, the real challenges lies in the mainstream cooperative. We are working to ensure women move from the workforce into the boardroom. We operate under a soft compliance model, which means we rely on institutional commitment rather than legal quotas. In terms of progress, we've seen a massive surge in female membership, but more importantly, we are seeing a shift in how women are viewed, not just as members, but as strategic architects of innovation and governance. Finally, the secret to our success is that synergy between the triple engine SKM, Angkasa and ICMA provide the social platform and these three bodies play their own roles. We know that SKM provides this regulatory framework and governance guidelines that encourage gender inclusive leadership within mainstream cooperative structure, while Angkasa as the national apex body serve as a vital platform for mobilization, ensuring women's empowerment remains as a central pillar of the movement grassroots advocacy. And last but not least, ICMA, the Cooperative Institute of Malaysia, providing structured gender-sensitive leadership training that equips women to navigate and lead in mainstream board. By pairing this with financial inclusion initiatives, we are giving women both the skills and the capital to lead our mainstream cooperatives into the future. And about the challenges and gaps that we face, we find out from the research. The triple engine, while the triple engine model is strong, we must be honest about the challenges we face in mainstream cooperatives. First, our policy gaps. Because we use a soft compliance model, inclusion is often seen as optional rather than essential. This is made harder by data invisibility. Without clear sex disaggregated data, it is difficult for SKM and ICMA to target the specific areas where women are being left behind. Second, we see a leadership bottleneck. We have the member, but they are not reaching the board level at the same rate. Third, and perhaps most importantly, are the socio-cultural barriers, specifically time poverty. To give you a practical example, if a large mainstream cooperative schedule its strategic meetings late at night or over weekend, because this is a voluntary work, without considering childcare, they are effectively locking women out of the decision-making process. We also see gendered perceptions in certain industries. For instance, in a transport or construction cooperative, a highly qualified woman might be overlooked for a leadership role simply because of the traditional perception that those sectors are men's work. To move forward, we must look beyond the number and address these deep-rooted structural and cultural clocks that prevents women from becoming the strategic architects of our movement. As we conclude, the research has proposed a way forward through 4 key pillars. First, policy recommendation. We recommend moving toward active compliance by making gender disaggregated reporting a standard part of the annual statutory returns submitted to SKM. This ensures the data is official and actionable. Second, for institutional improvements, we must fix the structural barriers like time poverty through gender-sensitive bylaws. We also propose that the regulator, SKM, recognize cooperatives that achieve gender diversity targets through formal incentive. Third, our capacity building. We must be specialized. ICMA will lead the charge in providing the strategic and digital training women need to lead effectively in the modern economy. And finally, our prioritized action is synergized advocacy. We propose a formal unified roadmap where the regulator, SKM, the apex body, Angkasa, and the educational institution, ICMA, work together. By aligning these 3 pillars, we ensure that women in Malaysia are recognized not just as the backbone of the cooperative membership as well as workforce, but also as the strategic architects of its future. So that is all from me. Thank you for your attention, and I would welcome questions. Over to you, Mr. Naveen.
Thank you. Thank you. So yes, we'll be taking up questions during the question and answer session. And meanwhile, you can put your questions in the chat box like others, everyone. So now moving towards our next country presentation, and that is from Nepal. And we have Professor Jyoti Regmi Adhikari from Nepal, who is a visiting professor at Kathmandu University. She has been in the field of education for quite a long time now, and she brought her experience for this study, academic experience. So requesting Professor Jyoti to continue with her presentation now.
Thank you, Mr. Naveen. Is my slide visible?
No, not yet.
Share. Is it visible now?
Yes, it's visible now.
Just a moment. Okay. Namaste and very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I would like to thank National Cooperative Federation, Nepal, and ICA-AP for this opportunity. As Naveen mentioned, I am a university professor and I'm not an expert in cooperative, but then it was a very good learning opportunity for me to work on this project. So I'll be presenting about my country, Nepal, on the headlines that has been similarly shared by the previous participants. So talking about Nepal, in the cooperative sector, there are almost more than 31,000 cooperatives in Nepal as of 2024 data, and 7.5 million members are there, out of which is almost 23% of the total population of the country. The sector gives employment to around 92,000 individuals, and the contribution of this sector to the national GDP is roughly 4%. The Constitution of Nepal has recognized corporate sector as one of the three pillars of the national economy, with public and private sector being the other two. So about its role in gender and talking about the key statistics, as mentioned in the constitution of our country as well as the Cooperative Act, it mandates 33% women participation in cooperative board and committees. Interestingly, in many of the cooperatives, there are currently more than or around 40% women representing in the corporate board. Compared to membership level also, there are more women cooperative members around as compared to men. Almost 56% of the cooperative members are women. However, there's only 13% of the cooperatives, total cooperatives are run by women, despite being a lot of women members. And definitely cooperatives has played a very significant role, like bridging, being a very vital bridge, especially for women in the rural communities, to provide access to them for formal financial systems. And in case of Nepal, women participation is concentrated more in the agriculture cooperatives as compared to many other cooperatives that exist here. About the policies and the about the national policies, foremost, the Constitution of Nepal 2015 itself mandates 33% women representation in the cooperative boards. Similarly, other policies as well as the strategies like gender equality and social inclusion strategy and National Women Commission strategic plan, though these strategies not specifically focus on women, gender in or women in cooperative sector, they basically try to aim for gender equality as well as address the underrepresentation of women and focus on enhancing women's right and promote promote on reducing gender violence in various sectors, which also includes cooperative. So these are some of the important gender-relevant policies and cooperative that exist in our law that speak about the women in various sectors, including the cooperatives. But then when it comes to cooperative specific provision policies and legal framework, the Cooperative Act of 2017, which provides a legal framework for while forming the cooperative formation, it suggests for a minimum 33% women representation requirement. And also the other guidelines, for example, the guideline for sustainable development goal of UN and the guideline of gender inclusion in cooperative, both prepared by the National Cooperative Federation. It tries to incorporate various SDGs agenda as well as focus on gender related policies to various to implement it to the various level of cooperatives in the country. So talking about the key findings of the report, so looking into the major insights, I just tried to look into the main report, and then when I studied my own country as compared to the other countries, I found that Nepal stands out for its legally enforced quota, that is 33% for women participation. And also, okay, so also the Nepal also has a apex institution, that is National Cooperative Federation, which facilitates translating policies to practices by providing training and encouragement to the women to represent in leadership positions. So what's the takeaway or learning from the country-based study in Nepal is that enforced quota, when it is combined with leadership training and women's federation, can definitely expand women's presence in the governance. That's I believe it's an important takeaway from my country. So I've already mentioned about this progress in gender inclusion. The women in the cooperative comprise almost 40% in the cooperative boards in various cooperatives around Nepal. And Nepal also leads in women's cooperative membership. So, of course, this is not a comparative study, but then when I was looking into the different women membership in 10 different countries, I found that Nepal leads in this particular data. And as for women, it's not only, they have not only, through this cooperative, they are not only able to get that institutional representation, but also it has been very, very beneficial for them personally to gain confidence as well as self-esteem, and at the same time, because of their financial independence, the way they are looked upon by their own family members as well as the society, the respect they get from there was quite immense, and that was felt by the women, has been felt by the women mostly in the rural community. So talking about the best practices or initiative, this is one of a very success story of Galdha Social Entrepreneur Women Cooperative. It has a very interesting story. However, I may not have the time to talk in detail about it. This cooperative started just in 2016, and then it's located in one of the very rural areas in western Nepal, and it is a fully led women cooperative which started with a very meager investment of 7 rupees per month. That is less than 7% each women invested every month. And currently, and just in maybe a 10 years time, they are able to achieve this organic ginger certification from the international level, and they are also able to market their products. They in fact started with a goat farming, and then they realized this goat waste manure could be used to cultivate organic ginger, and then they applied for certification, and then now they are able to sell their products internationally. And also both from the government sector, government side, as well as the NSF side, the formalized gender auditing and the data reporting mechanism, which links to the compliance of the 33% representation, and also about the funding and registration, is a practice that has been in use. However, perhaps not in overall cooperatives, but then it does exist. That's one of the practices that's worth mentioning about my country. However, well, with all these achievements, there are definitely a lot of challenges and gaps that needs to be taken care of. Talking about the policy and structural gaps, in Nepal too, like many other countries, there's an absence of dedicated gender strategies, which especially focus on cooperative sector. And whatever this exists, there's in fact a very weak enforcement, as well as there's no proper monitoring mechanism to check whether what is actually mentioned in the policies is actually happening or not. Same with the implementation. what we have seen and what others also shared about Nepal was that it's more of a symbolic representation. Of course, we have the representation of women, as already mentioned, almost 40% in the board, but then it's more of a symbolic representation and it misses the qualitative influence because of which women are more confined to deputy or more of a secondary roles, while men are the ones who take the most primary leadership positions. And even those women who are in the leadership position, it seems that their decisions are hardly taken or considered. Because I'll be talking about later how that can be mitigated. So also the socio-cultural barriers, which are similar to other South Asian countries. Nepal is not free from patriarchal norms, which confines women to more of a household responsibilities and limits their mobility outside home, which restricts their active participation outside. In addition to that, women as compared to men in our country have lower literacy rate and they have limited exposure to formal financial system, which limits their active participation in cooperative sector. So the example could be because many times when these kinds of a kind of mismanagement happens in any cooperative sector because of their role in the cooperatives, the women become more of a scapegoat for a lot of financial responsibilities, which in turn affect they have to suffer from the various domestic violence as well as mental stress. So despite being in the having a good representation, lot of challenges and gaps lies ahead for women in the cooperatives. The recommendations almost similar to what other participants have also shared. The policy recommendation, of course, Nepal also needs comprehensive gender strategies with clear implementation guidelines and also a mechanism how to enforce those implementation. Also, there are a lot of guidelines, in fact, but then those guidelines remain in paper form. So it's very important to align the existing guidelines into the formalization process. So of course, again, there might be strategies, there might be guidelines in place, but then unless and until there is proper gender responsive budgeting, which is distributed in every level of cooperative programs, then the successful implementation of these policies and strategies would not be possible. Therefore, implementation of gender responsive budgeting is very, very important. At the institutional improvement level also, it's been observed that we need a monitoring and evaluating system to check how the mechanism takes place, and also a lot of time the structural barriers that the women have to face that needs to be overcome and needs to be supported by the system that creates a better environment for women to grow in the institution. And with all these, it also, unless women herself or women themselves are encouraged and are capable, nothing is going to happen. So the important thing is that it's very important for if we really need to empower Nepalese women, we really need to, because they have been oppressed for such a long period now, to make them come out and engage in the community and cooperative outside their home. It's very important to encourage them with various awareness programs and initiatives. And another very, very important thing that was seen in the study was that, of course, a couple of times I already mentioned that representation of women is there in the corporate sector in Nepal. But then whoever the women are represented, there, these are mostly the elite women. So within the women community also, there are a lot of other women's, like women's from the Dalits, disabled, widows, illiterate, as well as indigenous women who are very, very marginalized. And these are the ones who really needs to be encouraged, aware, and initiative has to take to build their capacity so that they can come out and engage themselves and gain confidence and make contributions to their family as well as to the society. So in the end, if we have to take prioritize action in case of my country, Nepal, again, I would like to highlight that women representation is not much of a problem unless we have the women from all women from different diverse women within the diverse group as well, but then not in terms of number, but in terms of meaningful participation, qualitative participation of women is the problem in leadership in cooperative sector in Nepal. So that is the thing that needs to be prioritized. And also this empowerment of women is not should not be taken in isolation. That's what I feel. And then it should be the responsibility to address from the holistic perspective, which would include not only the cooperative sector, but along with the government. They need to work with the government, private sector, as well as NGOs and the community as a whole. That's the end of my presentation. I hope I didn't exceed much time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Jyoti. Yeah, so we are just a little bit late. No worries. I would just request everyone to have patience as we move towards our next and final country presentation. So for that, we have Miss Tien from Vietnam. Ms. Tian has very long experience in the field of agriculture and cooperative development in countries including Vietnam, Laos, while she was working in different international organizations like UNDP, World Bank, GIZ, and these are just to name a few. So she brings a very huge experience in the field of cooperative development, which definitely helped this study to uh, have very insightful learnings from the study of Vietnam, which she'll be sharing now. So I'm going to share her presentation from my end.
Yeah, thank you a lot. May I share my presentation, dear?
So, sure.
Yeah, I want to share and I want to. Okay. Can you see? Can you see?
Yes, yes, we can see.
Okay. Let me see. So, good afternoon, everyone. I am the last presentation today. Are you still with me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for opportunity to speak today. My name is Ting, and I very happy to present some key findings from Vietnam for this regional study. So as other country, my presentation also with 5 parts. So I don't need to repeat again. So we save our time to discuss later. So cooperative in country context, in Vietnam, we have 32,600 ITA cooperative as data 2024. And we have a 6.9 million members, and we have a 2.59 million regular worker work in cooperative. And also cooperative contribute around 4.3% of GDP of country. So also agriculture count of 61 of cooperative. So women still play key roles in agriculture, processing, trading, and service. Cooperative help women asset market training and collective action. Women also account 38 to 40% of members. Women also account over 45 regular workers, but only 20 to 25 of management position held by women. But with cooperative only occupy sitting by 6% of cooperative leader. So women participate active, but leadership remain limited in Vietnam. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So let's see the policy and legal framework in Vietnam. So in Vietnam, we have a strong legal foundation for gender equality. This includes the law on gender equality 2006 and also the national statutory on gender equality 2000. We have a period from 2021 to 2030, and we have a resolution 11 from central government on women advancement. So, what the content inside that we have, I have the full in report. So after this workshop, if someone need it, we will send you by email or in post chat. Thanks. So cooperative we have amended cooperative law 2023, and which we support equal right and digital or in climate change and also training. And recently, 2024, the government also issued a decree 113. We provide incentive for cooperative with female participation. So this policy align with the Sustainable Development Goal 5 and also Sustainable Goal 8. So, however, Vietnam still like mandatory leadership quad as national gender monitoring system and also strong gender budget. So in this study, we found three main points. First thing, we consider first women participate high, but leadership still remain low. The gap reflects structural barrier, not lack of capacity. Female-led cooperative performance comparative and compare with male-led one. And also the second thing, also the progress in gender. The third progress is visible. More women now receive training and more women-led cooperative are emerging in value chain and OCOP model in Vietnam. And nowadays, many cooperatives in different regions of Vietnam, they engage more women in leadership. Example, like in the Central Coastal, we have some cooperative led by the women. They are very active, and they have more income for member and for cooperative too. They apply different way of production and also marketing or also add value for the value chain because they do more semi-processing and after harvesting. Example like a Hoa cooperative, it is the Roygan cooperative, and they produce they get the certificate of global gap or organic product. So they have a double income compared with other cooperative. I mean double income compared with 1 hectare with the normal production. So let's see what is challenge and gap we are still facing. So we have several challenges remain. First thing is there is no binding quote for government leader and implementation is uneven even cross among province. And the second thing, like gender-based data still limited, and many programs depend on short-term program. So sometimes we did not finish our target, and the program is already ending. So it is a pity. And the third thing, the women also facing unfair care burden, lower asset and land and credit, digital gap, and also some context of society. So women also face also example like a woman spend 20.6 and bear compared with our per week compared with 10.3 hour for men. So that's the thing we during the research and study we found out not only by other study but also we work with the Vietnamese Cooperative Alliance, and we discuss we find out the information and data from the Ministry of Agriculture and Environment. So with the finding and the other thing, we give some recommendation. So we give a five action. First, introduce the at least 30% women lead the representative on cooperative and try to moving toward 40% by 2030. And the second thing, build a national gender MIV system. And the third, link public support to gender performance. And four is improve women access to finance, land, and digital tools. And fifth, expand mentoring, childcare support, and leadership training. So gender equality is not only social growth, but also a strategy for productivity and sustainable. With this research, I would like to make conclusion. Vietnam has made progress, but more work is needed. If women have equal opportunity to lead, cooperatives still become stronger and more innovation and more inclusive. Thank you very much for attention. I look forward to your question and discussion. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Ms. Tian. Thank you for adhering to the timeline. Very insightful discussions on the Vietnam. So now the floor is open and for the question and answer session, and I think we'll just have the time for 2 questions that we can accommodate, considering that we are already late and have already exceeded our time limit. Yes. Anyone would like to ask any question, or I'll just go through the questions that I have in the chat box. Yeah. Okay, in chat box also I see that a couple of questions have been answered already. Okay, so we have a question in the chat box from Dr. Amita in India, and her question is related to the presentation from Nepal. So her question is that she would be interested to see if COPs with more women in leadership position perform better than those with less women in the leadership position. So see, I think just wants to know that is there any idea or has been any studies around that? That do the women perform better, or is there any analysis that was part of the study that we were trying to see or in future to Professor Jyoti?
Thank you for the question. As of now, I'm not aware if that's been that type of a comparative study, but definitely I'll check with the NSF and then find if they have any documents or any data on that. However, as for me, I'm not aware of this kind of study. While I was doing this project, I got access to a lot of studies that was done on cooperative in Nepal, but I'm not aware of this comparative study.
Thank you. Thank you for answering.
Okay, so we have one question, and that question I think it is to participants. So I think for this, I'll try to have a quick poll if possible. Just give me a second. And we can have answers in the poll. Okay, so I've launched the poll. You can see on your screens. So it is just a simple question and would like to have your answers. Okay, okay. Yeah, we are getting good responses now. Okay, I'll just wait for 20 seconds more. Okay. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we have like more than 50% of people responded, and everyone says that yes, I haven't seen no or somewhat till now. Yeah, so that's a good thing to know that what we have been doing makes sense to the community, to the people, to the researchers. Okay, thank you everyone. So yeah, so it's time to have some reflections, and would for that I would like to request our chairperson of the research committee, Dr. Sitzel Grimstad, to come up with her thoughts. She has been with the research committee for quite long time now, and since Last year, she has been serving us as the chair. Before that, she was the vice chair of the committee for 4 years. Over to you, Dr. Sarsel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naveen, and thank you so much to the Women's Committee, the ICA Women's Committee. I think it has been fabulous to be able to work with you to organize these two colloquiums and such an insightful presentations from all the country researchers. I think it has been a really valuable and interesting project. And as you know, I'm also a country researcher for Australia. But what I really think that this project, the value of this project is that how you have managed to lead and coordinate the study of policies in 10 different countries. I think it's a fantastic model of how we can go forward on understanding how different countries approach policies in the cooperative sector. And maybe this, I consider it like a pilot research project in a way, the method, the structure, and how to develop how to develop the concepts we use, the questions we ask, and so on. I think it's a very valuable project, and I've really given it a lot of praise in the Global Committee for Cooperative Research as an innovation coming from the Asia Pacific region. Not only does it give us a lot of information and knowledge, but the cross, what shall I say, fertilization of ideas and approaches that we see in this report is fabulous for us to build on going forward. I think I really hope, and I would like to also praise the leadership and the coordination performed by Simran in getting us all together and getting us on the same page, and also finally managing to assemble all of this into one report, one coherent and I think very good report, thanks to you, thanks to the ICA-AP, both Simran and Nitya and the leadership of Dr. Rajeswari, of course. So with that, I don't want to keep us very much longer, other than I think this is a really valuable project. And I think I really liked the comment by some of the country researchers saying, oh, I didn't know much about the cooperative sector before I started this project. What is better than we expand cooperative knowledge through researchers that are involved in these projects? I think this is really another added positive impact of the project. So I will only congratulate you on this project, and I hope that the ICA Asia Pacific Committee for Cooperative Research can continue collaboration with the Women's Committee in some way or form going forward. I think one little challenge we do have, and Simran, you mentioned this, is how do we get this wonderful report and its findings further abroad? And so I think maybe that can be a challenge we can put to all the country researchers. How do we disseminate the findings throughout the region and in each of these countries? And of course, next step would be to have all the other countries as well. Okay, thank you so much, all of you, and thank you also for inviting me to be part of this project. I've very much enjoyed it, and it's been wonderful to meet all the wonderful women researchers in the countries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Setzel. So for closing this session and just for the final comments before we close this, we have our regional director, Mr. Balu here with us, who will be sharing the regional perspectives and what these type of studies makes way forward for the ICA-AP. May I request regional director Balu is to.
Hello, everyone, and Thank you very much for inviting me to join us convey my remarks, closing remarks, and the way forward. I apologize that I could not join the session early, but I'm sure that having looked at the persons who were presenting, that it would have been a very engrossing session. Let me begin by acknowledging and thanking the lead researcher, Professor Rajeshwari, and the team of country researchers, especially our presenters today, Ms. Mahima Pati from Fiji, Dr. Shrija Sinha from India, Ms. Juliana Binti Muhammad Yusuf from Malaysia, Dr. Jyoti Regmi Adhikari from Nepal, and Ms. Tran Thuy Tin from Vietnam. I'd also like to extend my appreciation to the ICA-AP Women's Committee for steering this work, especially to Simran Singh and Nitya Shukla. And my thanks to Dr. Sitzel Grimstedt, Chair of the ICA-AP Research Committee, for joining us today. The colloquium, which we had last and today, brought together not just research, but reflection, and importantly, direction. As we heard from across both the series, the study provided us a comprehensive view of how gender policies are evolving across the region. From the Asia-Pacific perspective, a few points stand out for me. First, cooperatives continue to hold strong potential as institutions for advancing women's participation, leadership, and economic empowerment. This is embedded in our identity, which is democratic governance, member ownership, and equity. However, as the study highlights, this potential is not fully realized. We see one, uneven participation of women across countries, a gap between policy intent and actual practice, and most importantly, a difference between presence and influence. In many cases, women are present in cooperatives, but not always in positions where they can shape decisions. Second, the study makes an important distinction between binding legal frameworks and voluntary or programmatic approaches. Some countries demonstrate that legally mandated measures, such as quotas and gender budgeting, can create accountability pathways, even if implementation challenges remain there. Countries relying on voluntary approaches show that while progress is possible, it is often dependent on institutional commitment, has uneven impact, and difficult to sustain at scale. Third, the study highlights structural barriers that go beyond cooperatives. Access to finance, social norms, unpaid care responsibilities, and limited enabling infrastructure. These are not issues cooperatives can solve alone, but they are issues cooperatives must respond to. So what does this mean for the ICA Asia Pacific? From a regional perspective, I see three areas of focus. One, moving from participation to leadership. We need to go beyond counting membership. The real question is, are women influencing decisions? Are they shaping strategy? Are they accessing resources? This requires leadership pathways, mentorship, and institutional support. Two, strengthening the policy practice link. We need to advocate for stronger cooperative specific gender mandates where appropriate, support implementation where policies already exist, and ensure that guidelines translate into measurable outcomes. This is where the ICA-AP can play a role, bringing together governments, apex organizations, and practitioners as we are doing through these studies. Third, building systems and not isolated initiatives. Training programs and projects are important, but they are not enough. We need institutional mechanisms, data and reporting systems, and accountability framework. And importantly, we need to strengthen regional learning. What works in one country should inform others. As many of you may be aware, we are about to launch the Gender Data Disaggregated Study, which will try to understand how gender disaggregated data is being collected, if at all. What does the data show? And this is something which we are hoping to present to you all later in the year. In terms of way forward, I see there are a few practical steps that we can take, and they are already being taken. One, strengthen regional knowledge platforms to share good practices. Two, support member organizations in integrating gender into governance and operations. Engage with policymakers to promote enabling frameworks and continue to invest in research that is grounded in practice. So again, I would like to thank the ICA-AP Women Committee, the ICA-AP Research Committee for their continued work in trying to ground research in practice. So finally, cooperatives are seen as inclusive institutions, but inclusion is not always automatic. It requires intent, systems, and sustained effort. So this study is an important step in helping us understand where we stand and what more needs to be done. So I think we now have an understanding of that, and we can definitely, these two colloquiums, the presentations that were made at the ICA-AP Regional Assembly, and the report that was released, all these things we need to continue to move forward with. So I'd like to again thank the researchers from across the 10 countries who participated in the study and our lead researcher, the Women's Committee, and all those who contributed to this work. So I look forward to, as part of the regional office, to continuing this journey together with you all in the days ahead. So thank you again for all your work, and I look forward to see how we can take this initiative forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your comments and your guidance. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, that we'll be sharing the recordings along with the recording of the first session that we had on 8th April with every one of you. And followed by that, we will also share the feedback form that I just put in the chat box. Many of you have filled, few may be remaining, so I'll share with you that for that reference also. Then I'll also share the presentations and our complete gender report that is also available on our website with everyone of you over email. Thank you for joining us today, and hopefully we'll come up with another research topic in the month of June. For that, we'll keep you updated. Thank you, everyone.